Hello? I don't know if I'm streaming. I think I am, but I'm not sure. Let us do this. Ah, much better. Well, friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ears. I have come to bury either, not to praise either. So ends, again, my thespian experience. However, we are here, again, to basically finish this girl off tonight, I would think. And, exciting to say the least, because we'll be moving on to the next project. Yes, we will. Yes. It's a little brighter in here tonight. I turned on both halogen lights. Consequently, it's brighter. Now, I did the silk mostly last night, but the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to do a quick run over with the blender for the silk. And this simply means that I'm taking all of the colors that I have put down, and I'm simply blending them together. Simple as that. And this is a colorless blender, for those who aren't familiar, which is simply a Prismacolor Premier pencil with the wax in it that has literally no pigment. None. Zero. It's just the wax. The reason for this is simple, that it allows you to mix the colors that are already down there with the wax from the Prismacolor pencil. That is indeed laid down, and I counted up last night how many layers, and I think I've outdone myself. I think now, with the underpainting equivalent of the marker, I'm at approximately 15 layers of color to get this beautiful silken look that I wanted so badly. And that simply means that the color is extremely rich. And as long as the color is rich, it will look like silk. And there's a few little striation marks in the Prisma from where you put it down with a sharp point, and this just takes them out. So it's just pure color, like a brush stroke. I like mine that you don't see my preference in Prisma is you don't see anything but the color. Some people do it loosely on rough paper and whatnot. It's a certain look and effect, but I don't prefer that. I prefer absolute, beautiful, I've run out of adjectives, but beautiful, glorious, wonderful. Maybe I should throw in big, very many, everybody knows that too. Anyway, regardless, it's just color. And I think it gives it a little bit more of a painterly look. When I do an oil painting, you can't see a brush stroke. That's the way I was taught to do it. So I know there's many ways, like as opposed to say Vincent van Gogh, you know, where you see all the brush strokes. My type of painting is where you do not see the brush strokes. Ah, there we go. Lovely, lovely. So, everyone, I hope you're having a lovely evening. I am. Just lovely. The commander, Obi-Wan, was here today, and I know you're getting sick of hearing this, but saved another airbrush from imminent extinction, not distinction, extinction. In other words, comes a point where the garbage looks better and better and better, but they make them so pretty that, you know, like it's hard to throw them out. And but it was getting to that point, I must admit. But Obi-Wan saved the day. Saved the day. And now, believe it or not, I have two beautifully working airbrushes. Actually, I have more than that, but I can't find the blasted Iwata one. But, needless to say, it'll turn up somewhere. Because when it comes to supplies, as you know, I had an art school. Art Academy to be exact, and the supplies, Lord Suffering Jesus. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. I need a correction down here. I must have been drawing and not looking. There we go. Slight correction. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. It's happened before. There we go. Need a little bit of shadow in there. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. Oh, good. Jeez, for a second I thought I picked up the wrong one. No. The eye knows. I'm at one with the eye. It's still not pink enough. There we go. There's a little bit of lace. Just a tiny bit of lace in this section over here. And I think I'm going to put it in with grape. Now, I guess you can see, no, you can't see, can you? I've got, just as I'm about to say, I'm going to be getting out my Faber-Castells to do some detail work and the breakage factor on Prismas these days. I pick it up and what happens? Yes, my friends, it broke without any warning at all. Now this is a little bit of black lace or something. Something to that effect. And I'm just putting it in here. Comes up in little points. And it does come down to here. Most definitely. There we go. And there's just a tad over here as well. There we go. Aha. Aha. There we go. And I'm going to throw a little color in here. A little color in there. Oh, bloody hell. I just noticed. Of course, the back of the dress is there too. Isn't that something? Do you remember I told you when you look at something too long that you sort of lose it? I don't mean lose it. I just mean you lose the ability to objectively look at it, because your eye gets so familiar that it just doesn't seem to pick it up. I know it's happened to me over and over again over the years. I'm not going to give you the King Tut story again. Oh, God. Live on, oh, simply wonderful news. Wonderful news. I think they call that sharing the love. Shows I almost said that with a straight face. Sharing the love. Anyway, that is wonderful news. Wunderbar. Wunderbar, as they say in Germany, of which I unbeknownst to me, I have a lot of German in me. Didn't know that, by the way. Had no clue. None. Zero. Until I happened to send away for, you know those things you can get with your DNA and all that stuff? So I sent away for it. Completely with the understanding that it would certainly just show, which I've always thought I was, half Scottish and half French. So in other words, my ancestors came from Scotland, and, well, they came from Normandy originally. I don't know where the French came from because it was 400 and some odd years ago, maybe 516, you know, it's getting there. Anyway, so had no clue at all. So what happens? Well, I send it away, get the results back, look at them, lo and behold, what does it say? No. Little bit of Scottish, little bit of Welsh, a little bit of Irish. Oh, I understand some of that, you know. I'm thinking, oh, maybe some Scandinavian, the Viking, No, not at all. What does it show? Northwestern European. So I go, what? Now, Northwestern European includes France, so that part was not the least bit surprising. But it also included all of Germany. Now that part was very surprising. And all of Holland, and all of Belgium, and all of the Netherlands, but mostly Germany. Now, considering my ancestors have gone to 2 world wars with the Germans, it threw me for an absolute loop. I mean, absolute. Hell, I even had an uncle who was in D-Day. So, I've never even looked or heard about or even liked polka music. I think that's from Germany, isn't it? Anyway, no, nothing. So, the question is, what happened? It can only mean that somewhere on the Scottish side, somebody had immigrated many moons ago to Scotland from Germany. But the question is, there's nothing, nada, zero in the family records. So I'm more than a little perplexed. More than a little perplexed. I'm not the least bit upset about it. I don't mean to imply that at all. Not at all. It doesn't bother me in one little bit. But it's a mystery, and God, if you know anything about me, as soon as I see a mystery, I gotta start seeing. I have to start trying to find out what it is, and find out I will, I hope. But there is nothing in terms of clues to go on, just the DNA. There's no names, there's no history, there's no nothing. So I'm at a loss how to go about this. I really am. I mean, on one hand, I'm a great admirer of Frederick the Great. And I'd love to be related to him. But the question is, probably is some fish seller or something. The mind just goes crazy. So here I am contemplating, well, okay, Art Galaxy GoTech is going to love this one. What if Herman Hesse, who crash landed in Scotland, had a little thing going on there with my grandmother, great-grandmother? Who knows? Maybe before they called the police, they went, hey, you're a strapping young fella. Well, he wasn't young then, but you know what I mean. And what if that happened? You know, poor Herman was in Spandau for about 50 years. But maybe it was his last kick at the can. I don't know. And like, the mind reels. Like, holy Moses, how is this possible? Anyway, the only thing that's puzzling is I hate marching. And why that's a bit of a joke is when I grew up as a kid, all my friends were German, believe it or not. All of them. Either first generation or they had been born in Germany. Wasn't uncommon back in those days because there was a huge German immigration after the Second World War. But anyway, my best friend lived right behind us, like fence to fence in the back. And his mother and father would have parties. And used to drive my father crazy, who was a vet of World War II. He was in the Navy. Was a Navy guy. Anyway, what they do is they all get loaded, drunk for you young people who don't know what that means, and they would put on marching songs German marching songs, if you believe there were such things, but there are. And they had a pool in their backyard, and they'd all line up and march around the pool to the marching songs. And we had a 2-story house. And I used to look out the back window and watch this. And then the next morning I talked to my friend, and we'd just kill ourselves laughing. He says, what the hell are these people doing? Marching. They like to march, and they'd have these songs on those marching songs, and they were all German. You never heard a word of English. And they had the parties. Well, of course they were Germans, right? So, but yeah, just crazy. So the minute I found that out, I went, oh my God, I don't even like to march. Well, maybe they don't march anymore. I don't know. But they did when I was a kid, I'll tell you. March, march, march. Which was a cause of mirth to myself and my friend, whose father and mother it was that was having the party. But my father, oh my God. That's when Archie Bunker would come out. I don't know what it is. The Germans. Come over here, they're marching. Jeez. Who's the Tunket? Germans. Yeah. Well, they're over here. But anyway, if you don't know who Archie Bunker is, look him up on YouTube. You'll find out. There, I gave her a little bit more color. Let me just see here now. No, maybe too much. Okay, so I'm gonna give her a little bit more pink complexion here now. She was a little bit too ghostly there for a while. I mean, she's got beautiful skin. There we go. And a very, very light peach over here. Give her nice cheekbones. The cheekbones say it all. Now, the next project. Well, boys and girls, I have a commission I have to do of one of my ex-students for her mother, who lives in Rome. However, she's not Italian, she's French. And it's a portrait commission, and I thought, you know, Might be a nice idea to do that, so that you see how the portrait's done. And actually, I'm going to be doing it in colored. Unlike most of my portraits, which are oil portraits, this is just a small wall portrait, you call it, because I've actually done her portrait previously. This is just like an update. She's in her mid-20s now. So anyway, I thought what I'd do is I would do it right here, and you can see the process. It's a bit of a challenge, to be honest with you. I'll tell you why. I'm going to do her just like I would a Vermeer, or the same technique as a Vermeer, I should say. Same type of skin toning, and so while I'm doing this, I can explain some of the techniques that Vermeer used in order to get the light and how he did it and what he did and how, all those neat questions. So I think it sounds interesting. And then I have some more of these, some characters I want to do too. But I thought that might be a fun kind of thing to do. And so I think I'm going to do that. It'll take a couple of days, a couple of evenings, but you know, I wasn't planning on going anywhere, so why not? Let's see. Yes, I think that, by Jove, I think that's got it. I knew I'd see him. See, if you listen long enough, you hear me say it. By Jove. By Jove. I got it. Well, I'm going down to her glove now. This glove has studs in it that's going to be put in with paint. So I'm not going to put the studs in. But I am going to put in the... and actually I'm going to start off with a polychrome. So how you like those apples? So they seem to have the exact color that I'm looking for. So I'm going to start off with the polychrome. And the polychromes, as you can see, lay down a lovely, absolutely lovely amount of color. They're not as waxy, no. However, color-wise, they're pretty nice, I must say. Oh, that won't do. Well, maybe it will. There we go. Anyway, I must tell you, today, in good old southern Ontario, Toronto, the southernmost, well, not isn't the southernmost, but very close to the southernmost part of Ontario, the temperature must have hit 50 degrees plus. So that means shirt sleeve weather for Canadians. Like, throw out your winter jacket. It's too warm. You don't need it anymore. And it's been like this for 2 days, and it's February. So I decided to send Al Gore a thank you card. And it's been great. Now when the temperature hits 50 in Canada, most people start reaching for their bathing suits. Now that's 10 degrees Celsius for those who do not know Fahrenheit. So you'll know what temperature I'm talking about. And in Canada, man, that is some nice weather for this time of year anyway. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I still don't believe it, but it's February. I can't even remember February being this warm. I tried to, but I can't remember one. Nope, I can't. One thing I noticed about these polychromes, they seem to have a very good gradation in the color. In other words, you can get colors are really close to each other, just one hue down. In Prisma, some colors you can get like that, but not all. And since you can't get them all, you have to sort of mix and match. Well, I don't have to mix them if I get the right color right off the bat. So that's why I'm doing this, using the polychromes. The color's already here, and then I can blend to what I want, which in this case is some lighter blues. There we are. Now right away you can see the difference in the pigmentation in the pencil. So I'll just give a little layer there of the polychrome on the polychrome. But actually, the point of this is, though, as you can see, they layer just beautifully. Really, they do. They layer together just beautifully, I should say. And that really, as long as it does that, worries are over. Completely over. Stay calm. Stay calm and now the time is near. Da 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 to I'm actually switching between polychrome to Prisma here. So if that's not proof, I don't know what is. Do not worry about blending together. It works fine. Da, 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 and oh, no, not this. I did it my way. For what is a man? You see, that's the downside. The break factor. Oh, great. You guys can't even see this. Okay. Boy, there's Bright Star. Da, 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 da. Da-da. You can see it now, I hope. Da-da-da-da. And oh, I did it my way. And no, oh no, not that. I did it my way. And every highway and oh no, nothing. I did it my way. Does anybody even remember Elvis Presley? Elvis Presley was the most popular singer you have ever seen in your life. He had legions of fans. You wouldn't have believed it. The funny thing is, most people don't remember, but when Elvis first came out, like, TV was pretty new then, and they wouldn't allow him to go on the TV. And the reason they wouldn't allow him to go on the TV was because they thought his dance moves, forget about Michael Jackson, this is Elvis Presley, they thought his dance move, well, it wasn't really dance moves, it was more just the way he moved on stage, the way he played, and they thought it was too suggestive. Read between the lines. Too suggestive. So they wouldn't put him on TV. No network would put him on. Well, needless to say, in a day when there was only like 3 networks, NBC, ABC, and CBS. Yes, there was 3, believe it or not, just 3. In the US anyway. What they did was, this caused a hue and a cry from his fans. Like, nobody had any idea how popular this guy was. And I can't remember now what, I think it was, oh, I don't remember. Whatever station it was, not station, but network, finally allowed him on the show, or on the, like, put him on TV as an act. They only showed him from the waist up. You think I'm making this up? You can't make this stuff up. That is absolute. Yes, that's right, Otto. Art Galaxy. They called him Elvis the Pelvis. They literally would not put him on the TV unless they only showed him from the waist up. So anyway, this ended the crisis, so to speak. So Elvis was put on the TV. But literally, like, women would not let their daughters go see him in concerts because it was just too suggestive, and these poor young girls were subject to such suggestion that it might corrupt their morals. You know, like, this is the crap that used to really. You know, you can't make this stuff up. It's the way it was. You wouldn't have believed it, really. I just wish some of the young people could almost go back and take a look and go, "You've got to be kidding me!" And it wasn't that long ago either. No, it was not. Like the puritanical streak was unbelievable. And it literally, that's what actually happened. And so eventually the 60s hit full swing and everything loosened up, and I think everybody was happy about that. But that's what happened. They would not let him on the TV. They said, no, God, no, it's too suggestive. Our young people will be... And then there was people that, usually in Kentucky and places like that, that what they did is they would decide that Elvis Presley was the moral equivalent of Attila the Hun, and they'd have a public burning of his records. So they would stand outside and burn his records and smash them to pieces, saying, "No, we will not be part of the corruption of our youth." This is the kind of stuff that went on. All the while sending young guys to Vietnam, by the way, which did not bother their morals at all. I mean, why would it? You can die for me, but I don't want you to die with anything in your ears that would be considered immoral. That was the world for a while, anyway. I read a thesis a long time ago. A long time ago, yeah, about what happened in the 20th century. And the premise was, well, you couldn't really argue the premise, because what the guy uses as backdrop was, as an example, was like New York City, the society in New York City in the 1890s. And let's just say that society in the 1890s in New York City, which was even then a huge city, was so loose that by today's standards, it would have been an endless raids. Like you could buy opium at the apothecary shops. You could buy cocaine at the apothecary shops. You could buy anything you wanted. Laudanum. Laudanum was opium. You could buy it by the gallon if you wanted to. A lot of people did. London, England wasn't much different, to be honest with you, either. But ladies of the evening, well, any variety or sex you wanted was available, and there was no laws. None. Zero. And this went on for, well, probably most of the 1800s anyway. But it kind of became a more modern thing, because by the 1890s in New York it was in full swing. Now, the premise of this was, what happened? when you think about it, is a damn good question. What happened? Well, how did you go from that to prohibition in the late 20s? How did that happen? Well, what happened was the First World War. The First World War broke a lot of ground, and what it was it was the first time like they'd ever really found out who made up the country, because every man had to was conscripted for duty eventually in the war, and they started taking statistics down. They found out how many people could read, how many people's eyesight was no good, how bad people's teeth were, because the soldiers were a cross section of society at large. This wasn't done in the Civil War. Civil War, if you were breathing, it was okay. In the First World War, no, they gave you like a medical. It was a more modern thing. So by 1916, they had a good idea what the United States of America and Canada and Britain were made up of because of conscription. And the consequence was powers that be were not impressed. They felt it their moral duty to correct this. Now, what they did was they took a whole generation of men, basically, which was the soldiers in the First World War around the world, because it was a world war, mostly in Europe, but in those days, hatefully say it, but the world was Europe and North America, and everywhere else was just everywhere else. And they, to maintain like a soldier's perspective and control, that's where you had like all those rules come in, you know, like if you're a soldier, you gotta keep your shoes shined, you have to march in formation, your sleeping quarters were laid out in barracks or tents, and they were all in rows, and if you wanted something, you went to the canteen and people fed you, and if whatever you needed was brought to you, as long as you were there to fight. Well, this is what happened, and then it kind of wore off after the First World War and went back to but only 20 years later, really, the Second World War started. And it was a much bigger war. A much bigger war. And the same thing happened all over again. So, a lot of things were changed. Like, for instance, the reason you have beverages in cans is due to the Second World War. They didn't move bottles. You had to move bottles or would break. Cans didn't break. Prior to the Second World War, nothing was in a can. And then there was canned goods, for instance. Well, nothing prior to the Second World War really was ever in a can, hardly. It was mostly in jars and mason jars and whatnot that were recyclable or whatever. But because there's such a huge amount of food, people had to be fed and clothed and housed. Same thing. Like, you need clothes for 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Uniforms. Shoes. Everything was regimented. Everything. Boom, boom, boom. No, you can only wear this kind of uniform. No, you can only wear this kind of shoe. You can only do this kind of thing. See? So, the men didn't like it, obviously. But they got used to it. That was the key. So by the time you hit the Korean War, which was a smaller situation, but by the time you moved into the 50s, most people who had served in the military or had been part of the military were used to having supplies brought to them, eating things out of cans. They were used to motorized transportation. All these things that had not been around not that many years earlier. And even down to subdivisions. You know what a subdivision is? It was nothing more than a glorified barracks. Like, they were all in a rows, right? It was to house men who were used to that type of thing, because they had to have all the soldiers in the same place. Roads that had to go out to them. The strip malls were convenience, so people didn't have to go and do a daily shopping. Refrigeration, cleaning, all of these things that came, the devices and things that were made were done because people expected them. And these young men who had been literally through their growing years, through maturing years, had been used to these things, expected them when they got returned home, and they saw nothing wrong with it because that's what they were used to. So a society which had been, like, there's no such thing really as like when a new city or town was built, it was all done on roads, and roads that were parallel and had stop signs and all of this stuff. And the reason simply was that that's what they were used to. I mean, that's what they had grown up in their formative years as soldiers. That was normal. Because you see, if you go to a European city, like, the streets are all wonky, and like even a lot of old cities in the US, like, the streets are wonky, and they don't end where they're supposed to, and you kind of wonder who the hell laid this out. Well, nobody did. That's the whole point. Nobody laid it out. It just grew as it grew. So a little area would start up, and then sooner or later it would become an area that it was maybe a fish area or the industrial area or whatever. That's the way things were. And again, if people didn't want that, then they would have rebelled against it. But they didn't rebel against it because that's what they were used to, all based upon their experience in their formative years in the military. So in a way, the military dictated the way the 20th century, from automobiles to housing to grocery stores to everything, was laid out. And the consequence of that was the way you actually live now. And so this thesis well, for my money, he was right on the money. Now, I can't remember every last detail of the thesis because I read it so long ago, but the examples I gave you were just some of the highlights. But he had example after example after example of the militarization, not the militarization in terms of war, but the militarization in terms of how things were organized in the society after 2 world wars. And when you looked around, there wasn't much that he missed. I'll tell you, that I can remember anyway. But again, this is the way things were, and this is, you wonder. Now, the weird thing is, this is the weird part, is it's becoming undone. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at a subdivision where I live now when they build it, the roads aren't all straight and narrow like they did in the 50s and 60s. The roads have cul-de-sacs in them, and they have roundabouts, and they don't necessarily go anywhere near a straight line. They're designed for a little bit more confusion. And I think it's human nature not to necessarily want that. And because it's been so long now since the wholesale population of North America and Europe has been in wars, that it's now starting to go the other way. And people don't want that. They go, no, I don't want that. I don't like that. I want something unique. And so society's changing again, which is good, I think, because that's the way things should have been to begin with. But so it's being undone, is what I'm saying. Slowly. But some vestiges of it will never change. In other words, mass transportation. Like, you've got to ask yourself, if the future of work, what you do, literally, is that you basically do it anywhere you are. What I mean by that is, people work from home. People have jobs that aren't don't require that transportation situation. So why are you spending billions and billions of dollars on subways and more bus routes and all of that stuff? Why? Because if what this guy foretold was true, like, you're going to see people living maybe in big cities, but you may not see them working there. And if they're not working there, they're not traveling in and out. Well, the whole idea of a subway is to travel in and out. N'est-ce pas? Like, get your butt over to the subway and travel that hour back and forth. And this is starting to wane. And since it's starting to wane, you have to ask yourself, is money being spent that's well spent? Like, are we doing the right thing? Should we be spending money on systems and whatnot that move people to and from big cities, if it doesn't matter if they're actually in those big cities for their work, for their livelihoods? And that's becoming more and more the norm. So the social implications are huge. Think about it. What is exactly going to happen? Are you going to have... And in a sense, it's already started to happen. And the reason I say that is, if you look at the more manufacture areas of cities, even in southern Ontario, virtually no manufacturing left. So all those plants that people went to every day for years for work, they're empty. And they end up tearing them down. Why? Those companies no longer are here. And they're never coming back. And they're not coming back because they've moved it to another country. But even if they move it from that country, they're not coming back. And the reason is automation is going to take over. Like, unfortunately, people are lied to on a never-ending basis in terms of your job's coming back. No, it's not coming back. It's never coming back. Because what you do is no longer being done by humans. And I don't mean there's this huge robotic conspiracy or anything like that. It's just that if you can automate, then machines don't get sick and they don't take vacations and they don't need support staff. You know, the biggest drop in jobs anywhere is in middle management. Do you know why that is? Because there's less employees. You don't need to, there's not so many people you need to manage. Why do you need to manage a person who's living at home, or working at home? You don't need a middle manager for that. You don't need a supervisor or a line manager. You don't need any of those things. So what happens? Well, they lose their jobs. Simple as that. That's what happens. They lose their jobs. And where's that all going to lead? Well, what it's going to lead to is, in the short term, some really, really huge problems. Because you've got to start figuring out, if there are no jobs for people, then you have to figure out how those people are going to live. And what's happening is there's some countries that have already started kicking around the idea of a minimum income, whether you work or not. I don't mean welfare. I don't mean that at all. I mean a minimum income. So in other words, no matter what you're working or you don't, you still make that income. And you spend your money and you consume. Otherwise, a society drops dead, right? You have to have a consumer society. So that's the whole world now. So how do you do that? Well, you have to distribute the money. Well, how do you distribute the money? Good question. That's what some of these countries are looking at. Should we have them, especially in Scandinavia, because they have the money. They don't rely on so much economic growth as they do on social programs and whatnot. And all this is going to take place in the next 25 to 40 years. Probably 20 to 40 years. That's happening right now, as a matter of fact. As we speak, it's happening. So, what's to be done? Well, there's going to be some growing pains, I'll tell you that. But automation is here. I mean, it's no surprise that... Just think about it for a minute. In the next 10 years, automated cars are going to be here. Satellite navigated cars. So people then will start thinking, well, do I need a car to do everything I need to do? Maybe not. Maybe not a personal car. Maybe there's something else that's going to be out there. Like Uber. Who thought about Uber? Look at Uber. Biggest cab company in the world. And it's about what, 4 years old now? 5 years old? Who thought about that? But again, it's here. It's not an idea. People now call Uber way more than they call cabs. Why? It's cheaper, better rides, simple to use. Use your cell phone, and away they go. So maybe Uber is an answer. Maybe you don't need a car. Maybe you just need Uber. by the same token, that could hurt the economy. So what do? Well, I think for a long time, it's going to be hard to wean people off of cars. And let's say that doesn't happen for a much longer period of time. But then you got to ask yourself, okay, we've got, like in Toronto, we have superhighways, and I mean super, like 16, 18, 20 lanes wide, and it's still not enough to carry all the traffic, like LA. So how do you fix it? Well, for one thing, if they're all self-driving cars probably will be programmed to not go over the speed limit. There'll be something in there that says, no, you can't go over the speed limit. So odds are there'll be less accidents. And if there's less congestion, well, then maybe you don't need a highway with 18 lanes. Maybe you need a highway with 6 lanes. And it moves the cars at exactly the same volume as it does now with 16 lanes. You see what I'm saying? So now if your goal in life is to be a policeman, a traffic policeman, who are you giving the ticket to? All the cars are going the same speed limit. So pray tell, who gets the tickets? You see? And why, therefore, do you need all these policemen? For what? What do you need the policemen for? I'm talking about traffic police now. And traffic police make up about 60 some odd %, if not more in a lot of cases, of the total number of police on the streets. They're giving out tickets, speeding tickets, traffic tickets, whatever. But that's what's happening. But you don't need them anymore. Well, the police budget shrinks by a huge amount. You don't need those. You don't need to do that. That's just one example. The point is that things completely, irrevocably change due to automation and computerization. And like I said, the problem is, how do people make a living to live in this society? The answer is they can't. There isn't enough employment for that. So what do? Well, let me tell you, the entertainment industry is going to be huge, because you've got to keep the population at large happy at all times. If you don't believe me, ask the ancient Romans. They found out. Why do you think there's a Colosseum in Rome? Kept the buggers happy every day. Let's go down and see some more people killed. Woo! Whoopee! Gladiators, yeah. Now that won't happen. That won't happen because everything will be done virtually. In other words, like video games. Look at the people who play video games. Look at the people who play video games right here. Right on this channel right now. Look at the number of people there are. Loving it, involved in it, talking to their friends. It's a multi-gaming. They're living, in a sense, in a video game world. Not all the time, but if there was nothing else that needed to be done, maybe they'd be there longer. And the games aren't going to get worse, they're going to get better. They'll be artificial intelligence, interactive. They'll learn your personality. They will make sure they know what to say to you to make you happy, what to say to keep your interest, your entertainment factor up, all of those things. So it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, it just means it's a different thing. And if it's going to be different, then what do you need to do? Well, first of all, make sure you educate yourself, because if you educate yourself, you'll find that you'll be able to discern the truth much faster than if you listen to somebody telling you the way it's going to be. Don't believe anybody, believe yourself. Research it, find out, figure it out. Ask yourself, can that be true? You really think that's happening? If the answer is I don't think so, then odds are it isn't happening. If you've done a careful analysis. Of what's going on. You won't always be right, but at least you're looking. That's the key, because every time you look, you learn something, and it's good training. Like I say, you're not going to be right every time, but you'll be right some of the time, and the better you get at it, the less you'll be able to be fooled, hoodwinked, lied to. And these changes aren't happening because people have gone out and said, well, we're going to change things. No, this is evolution. This is the way people are going. It's going. It's just the way it is. So there's no point in trying to fight it. I mean, if you want to have examples of people that tried to fight it, look up the word Luddite. Ah, Ghost! Hi there, man! How's it going? Good to see you. Dropped by your channel, but you weren't on, so maybe you were taking a break. Just talking about I don't know, what the hell were we talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about what's going to happen. Like, what's it going to be like 20 years from now, 25 years from now? What will happen? What will be the norm? What will it be? Will it be? But if you want to know a really good little hint, learn how to do something. I don't care what it is, but learn how to do it. And learn how to do it really well. And choose wisely. Don't decide you're going to be a bricklayer. Nothing wrong with bricklayers, but that's already a dead job. Why do I say that's a dead job? There's a machine the Chinese are using that lays bricks. So you stick in the 3D, like a 3D printer, and it will literally build the house for you wherever you want it to build. And it lays the bricks perfectly, and it lays the bricks 24 hours a day if you want, dark or night, doesn't make any difference. And you'll end up with perfectly cured, perfectly straight, perfectly everything job. And this machine is available in China. Now obviously they're not going to use it yet because there's still a lot of guys who lay bricks over here. But let me tell you, just wait 20 years. See what happens. So you gotta choose wisely. But if you choose something where people need to be entertained, I can almost guarantee you that you'll always have something to do in terms of work, because it will be the biggest thing. After food, shelter, entertainment will be third. Guarantee you. Because you've got to keep people happy, and the only way to keep them happy is to keep them entertained. Not many people can entertain themselves. But they sure as hell know how to enjoy entertainment. I'm just putting this so it looks a little rounded on her arm here. Now, Ghost, was it you, man, or was it you who wanted a ring in her nose or something? Oh, you had internet problems? Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. I feel for you because I came back from a 3.5-year internet problem. It was called Belize. God. Internet from like the 1990. Just awful. In fact, they hardly even had computers in Belize, believe me not. Everything was written down in a giant ledger book. Everywhere you went to deal with like anything government, they'd write it up in a ledger book. And it finally occurred to me why Belize was so popular with the bad guys. You know, guys who were skipped out on something or whatever. Well, it finally occurred to me why. Because there was no internet, really. Well, there was internet, but nobody had computers. Everything was done by hand. So in other words, you go, well, look up this guy's name. It was in 25 different books, you know? Who the hell would ever find it? And the books were 3 feet thick. Nobody ever. They just weren't with the program yet. They will be, but it'll take longer. And in fact, most of the third world is like that, you know. It's not like, it just isn't like it is here. You know, you go and you use your debit card or a credit card. Somebody can tell you 5 years from now what time of day you were there, what you bought, you know, like what you're, God, down to almost what you were wearing. And you say, like, holy Moses, I mean, where's my privacy, man? Where's my privacy? And there, no such thing. Nada. So if you want to hide, where do you go to hide? Go to the third world. Nobody will know. And the first guys to figure that out are guys who want to hide. Because let me tell you, there were some strange characters down there. Not Belizeans, people from Europe, and you see them and they go, like, what the? And then it occurred to you, like, whoa, I get it. They used to call it You're on the Lam. I don't know what they call it anymore. In fact, it happened right when it happened just down the street from me one time. Had this guy. It was one of those guys, one of those weird personalities, you know, like he was in charge. You know, like, don't worry, I'm in charge. One of those type of guys. You know? Had to be a little guy with a big attitude. He was the one that was going to have the say. Well, slowly but surely, he got into like the neighborhood watch. Neighborhood watch used to be you just watched. You know? Well, he turned it into like a militia. You know, people would go out at night and roam the streets. They never found anything. But, you know, he built up a fear in people that there could be something. So if there could be something, it's better to be prepared. And if you're going to be prepared, you should go out and check and all that. You know, it just one follows another, right? And he was in charge of all this. And slowly but surely, it was almost becoming not militarized. I don't mean that. I mean, it became more... Am I familiar with Ghost in the Shell? Yeah, I saw that movie. Or was this a series or a movie? Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, I've heard of it. I know what you're talking about. Is it a game? I've heard the name, Ghost in the Shell. I don't know offhand what it was all about, but I do know what you're talking about. I do know. Certainly do. I'm drawing the main. Oh, are you really? Hold on, let me write that down. I'm gonna go take a look. I'll do when I'm finished broadcasting. Ghost. 03 Ghost and Shell. What are you drawing? What are you using to draw with? Like, what's your medium? What are you doing in it? Before the anime adaptation of Ghost in the Shell, there was the original manga Masamune Shirow, and it changed the world of cyberpunk fiction. No kidding. Maybe that's why I've heard of it then. So it's like an anime thing, but it's different anime. You're saying it's got more. It has a different look. So it's got a different look to it, maybe, or when I finish broadcasting, I'm gonna go have a boo. I wasn't aware of that. I don't really follow anime, so interesting. And the guy's name, yes, there was a movie that, yeah, now it was a movie. Okay, now, yeah, I remember now. So that this guy, Masamune Shirow, and he changed manga drawing, because I like to see that, so I will look. I'd like to see it for sure. I will look. Ghost in the Shell, I remember it now. Well, remember when I said I wouldn't do a tattoo? Well, guess what? I didn't know I was going to do a tattoo. Well, it's there now. And no, it can't be removed. You know, it's funny today. My the commander, Scott, was fixing another airbrush I had bought a long time ago. And I think it was in a box, so I must have bought like a whole kit. There was the airbrush, the whole thing. And in the box, believe it or not, there was all these little bottles, and it was temporary tattoos. And I guess, I don't know what it was, but I never used it. But all these little bottles of paint that were temporary tattoos. I thought, man, that'd be kind of cool, you know, like tattoo a skull on your forehead or something. I don't know. It'd be kind of neat. I don't know if I would ever go for a real tattoo, but a temporary tattoo, well, it is temporary. But apparently it lasts for like 2 weeks before it starts to fade away. Whatever the ink, I don't know what the ink is, some sort of an acrylic ink, I guess. But yeah, it was funny that that happened today, right here, right in the studio. Ah, there it is. That's what I'm looking to do. I want to get this shadow down in here. Give her more. And more, much more than that. I did it my way. Yeah, did I tell you I have one of my old students who's in Japan right now, and that's basically, she works for one of those companies that does, or a gaming company that makes, or a movie company that makes anime features. I never asked her what she was working on. I wonder if she, I'm kind of wondering now, maybe she worked in that movie. Could have. I should email her and ask. She was a really good anime artist. God. If you have not, ta 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 ta, let the record show I have and did it not. Well, folks, I'd say it's about time for hair. Let there be hair. Long, beautiful hair. Shining, gleaming, seeming flax and wax. Lead me down to there. Hair, show like long hair, baby. Hair. Growing long. So I've been growing my hair. Thank God I can match the airbrushing, because there's always some bloody place where you didn't quite tape it down just the right amount and it comes up to bite you in the butt. Okay, so she's a brunette. That said, I will get the brunette colors out. Burnt sienna is a good choice. Okay, so we're gonna start doing this. She took the blow and did it but it's quiet. For what is man? What has he got? Da, 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 da. And let's go. Took the blows and did it my way. Well, if you like cyberpunk fiction, you would like Ghost in the Shell. I'll be honest with you, Ghost. I'm not really familiar with cyberpunk fiction. It's something that I'm going to have to look at. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what that means. But I'll look it up. You know me, I'll find out. Wait, oh, more, much more than that. I did it my way. If you're doing this, always make sure you leave a little glow line, along an edge, like you just saw me do that, right down here. Leave a little glow line, because it always gives you the option of putting in, if you need more light, you can get more light. If you cover it up, then you got more trouble. Well, you haven't, I don't mean you have trouble. What I mean is you take away an option. That's what you do. And you can always take it out. I mean, it's not as if it's engraved in stone or something. You can just cover it up because you're doing up a darker color. There's a really nice feature down here on the hair that I want to get, which is a really, really nice. So it comes to about here, and then it comes around, darkens again here. So all through here is a highlight, which is kind of cool. And the hair really just comes out, just windswept, you know. And every highway and oh, much more than this. Well, if you like cyberpunk, oh yeah, I read that. If you like cyberpunk fiction, I will. Well, I haven't seen the movie, but it's on the movie network I have. It's still there because I see it. I watched a movie last night. It's called Geostorm. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was a bad movie at all. Then I went into Internet Movie Database and I started reading the reviews. Jesus. They tore this movie to pieces. I mean to pieces. Literally. I mean, about this wasn't right and that wasn't right. I almost yelled at the computer. It's a movie. Relax. You know, it's not supposed to change the world. It's just a movie. It's called entertainment. God almighty, people get so bent out of shape out of what they perceive as something isn't quite right in a movie. Like, are you kidding me? You mean to say, oh yeah, Scott said today, it was so true. I never thought of it that way, but so true that, you know, in the old days, you know, when John Wayne or somebody shot a 6-gun and killed 20 bad guys, and nobody saw him reload the gun. Nobody said, hey, he didn't reload. Nobody said that. It was a movie. Now, God, it's like it's a capital crime or something. So anyway, I just thought, like, come on, get a grip. That happened one time. This movie came out called Gladiator. Now, I studied a lot about ancient Rome. And yes, there were a number of things that were not historically accurate from what's known of gladiatorial combat and whatnot. But who cares? But I remember reading people going, oh, this isn't historically accurate. God, are you kidding me? You're watching a movie. Even down to the emperor Commodius, who actually was not that bad an emperor as emperors go, but Commodus, Tiberius' son. But you know, like, it was a movie. They made him more like Nero was reported to be. Mind you, Nero was a good emperor until he got sick. Something happened to him. The reports of Nero are weird. Like, he started off an excellent emperor. Civic works, changed for people, and made life better for the poor in Rome, and made civic projects that would benefit everybody. Then he came down with what they only describe as a terrible fever. And when he came out of the fever, he was stark raving mad. So nobody knows what that was, but that's when all the craziness started. So whatever he had drove him. Who knows how they cured him too? Like, you know, what was the cure? Like, in the Middle Ages, they'd cover you in dung. You know? But you don't know what cures you, you know. If you've got a bad cut and you have nothing to put on it, put clay on it. There's healing properties in clay. I wouldn't suggest it if you had like proper stuff to do that. Did I do that? Oh my God, how did that happen? Oh, maybe it was already there. Yes, okay. Alright. Anyway, enough of the marker. That's her hair as it's going to be without putting any Prisma on it. So, oh, here we are. I went out and bought. Thought, oh, you got them. Sorry, my eyes are just readjusting. Ah, so you've tried them then. Aha! There's nothing like Premier pencils. Do you feel the waxiness when you're putting them down? Man. Now the next thing you need to do is find a place that sells them one at a time. You can order them off Amazon. They were €40 on Amazon. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, euro and buck are both the same. What you need to do is find an art store that sells them one at a time. So if you haven't got one near you, you can buy. Don't buy the 12 packs in Amazon. Just don't do it, because you don't need 12 something. Maybe the whites, but besides that. And the one for 12 whites, it isn't a bad price, to be honest with you. But everything else, make sure you can buy you find a place to buy one or two. If you find the right color and you use a lot of it, buy two. The reason I say that is that you don't want to keep replacing the set. That's why I was hoping you would buy Prisma, because you don't have to buy the whole set every time you get low on a color. You can buy just one. So replace the pencil. Don't replace all 40 pencils, which is really a very, very good thing to have when it comes to colored pencils, because the polychromes, not many people carry them. And you run out of a color, you have to replace it with another color, right? So, or see if you can find the color. And that's sometimes very difficult to do. In the polychromes, that is. But Prisma, usually any art store will have Prismacolor, individual Prismacolors, and try to pay no more than $2 for it, or €2. If you look around, you can get them maybe for €1.50. There are places. There really are. But again, it takes a little bit of digging. But don't buy a dozen colors of one. Except the only ones you need a dozen of is white, because you'll find you use a lot of white, because that's how you adjust your color up and down the scale, right? It's whites. So when I go to buy Prismacolor, what I'll do is I'll buy a dozen whites, and I'll buy. Well, I don't buy them. That's not true. I do go buy some once in a while. Well, I don't buy a lot. I go buy 3 or 4, because I have a lot of Prismacolor. So you bought what you bought then. You bought this set. This the set you bought? Those are the ones? Just remember, when you're using them, lightly, light. Be very light. You don't need to put much pressure on them, because there's so much pigment in them. You don't need to do that. In fact, what I'll do, if you watch me do the hair now, you'll see. Now what I'm doing first over the darks of the... Oh, that's the other thing. If you can... I don't know if you can get alcohol markers fairly cheap. But buy the cheapest alcohol markers you can possibly buy. And you don't have to buy every color. Maybe maybe a set of 10 or 12 or something. And the reason I say that is you know how I just did this with the hair? So I put down alcohol marker. Then I'm going over it with Prismacolor. It's equivalent to 3 layers at least of Prismacolor. At least. So it saves you, not only does it save your pencils, but it gives the color more intensity. And that's what you want. But let me tell you, you can, especially manga. And believe it or not, funny you say that, I was just at the art store the other day. Hell, it was just yesterday. What am I saying? Anyway, and I look at the colored pencil section, which I always do, because I had to get a couple of colored pencils. And, yeah, I had to buy a couple. Because, you know, doing as much drawing as I do, there I bought this one yesterday. I bought a light umber. So that's a brand new one. Which is weird, eh? Because if you look at it, it's not sharpened at each end. Which means it's stocked from the old US market, see? As opposed to the Mexican. If they're sharpened at one end, a little bit of sharpening, they're made in Mexico. If they're not sharpened, they're made in the USA. But the thing is, I don't think there's any made in the USA anymore. But that doesn't matter, because they don't go bad. I mean, I got pencils here that I've had for years. So some colors you just don't use hardly at all, right? So, well, you do, but not very often. Not like. So anyway, if we're doing hair, and I'm doing long sweeping strokes, and the reason you want to do those sweeping strokes is as you come off the pencil, like zip, right? See how I did that? How you come off the pencil is your pencil lifts as you pull away. So the line gets thin, 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 and then you're off. So it's thicker where you start and thinner at the other end. Just like a strand of hair. Same thing. That's why you do it. And practice a bit before you do the hair. Because I've done it so long it doesn't matter, but I'm actually taking this right off the page here. There's an errant there, see that? And this here is 2. There we go. See how I pull it off? Just like real hair. That's how you do it. Yes, sir, that's how you do it. And you just go a little bit out farther from the hair with your colored pencil, so it gives it more volume than just the marker. And don't be afraid to put a little bit color in, a little bit of color in you wouldn't normally put in. Like if you notice, first thing I put in here was some purples. Why? You won't see the purple, but it gives the hair more of a oh God, what's the word? It gives it more volume, kinda, you know? That's what it does. More volume. So if you can find those markers, that'll save you an awful lot of color pencil. It's really worth it. Simply because you don't need as much colored pencil, and you get the see how I went over this now with the burnt ochre. Here, that's marker. This is colored pencil. See that? See that? That's the look you get. And there's the look without the marker, and there's the look with the marker. See the vibrancy in the different shades? That's the key. And if you do that, you'll end up with a fabulous look. Especially in manga, like holy Moses, like that's what you want. You want that bright color, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why people love mangas, color. At least that's what Dakota told, or the girl told me. Why I asked her one time, what is it about manga that you like so much? She said, the colors. I said, oh, cool. Oh man, this doesn't get any better, I'm telling you right now. Look at that. This burnt ochre over top of these markers. Oh, look at that. It's that real brunette color, you know? Wow. That's what they expect to see. And you're not going to be guest ghosts when I'm going to be doing the next drawing is I've got a portrait commission, and I've kind of got permission to do it right on the air here. And believe me, she's a lovely young lady, so it won't be hard to look at. And she's a redhead. And I'm going to do it right here in Prisma. In Prisma. Which is not my usual method for a portrait, but this is like a 3/4 portrait. So if I was doing a full head, I would do I would use oil, but a 3/4 to a half head size, I like doing those with watercolor or colored pencil. Watercolor is easier to do it in, for me anyway. I don't know if it's easier for everybody, so don't go by that. But I like watercolor for portraits. I just find it's about as perfect a medium as I can find. But she don't want the watercolor. She wants something oil looking. So I said, well, what about Prisma? She goes, just as long as it looks like painting. I said, well, it'll look like a painting, that's for sure. Like she wants to see, because she wants to frame it. So I'm going to do it on it, and I'm not doing it on Strathmore. I'm going to do it on illustration board, because I think I want to make it just the size a little bit bigger than this. So I've got illustration board I'm going to use. Oh, I can't get enough of this burnt umber. Jeez, or this burnt ochre. Oh God, fabulous. I'm lifting at both ends now. You see that? And that volume of hair that you want to have come down. Ooh. It's just my eyes here. There we go. Okay. Oh, it's only 9 o'clock. Good. For a reason there, I thought. Oh, I know. I looked at. I have a clock on the wall that I refuse to change once a year because it's too hard to hang back up. So I leave it until the clocks change back. I know it sounds so stupid, but that's what I do. And they don't change back until the spring or summertime, whatever the hell the date is. April, May. Anyway, so then it's right for 6 months, then it's wrong for 6 months. Sometimes I look at it and go, oh, it's 10 o'clock. No, it's not. It's an hour ahead, right? So then I'm pleasantly surprised and go, oh, that's good. I didn't think it was that long. So, you'll be seeing a portrait done. It was good because one of the people I asked, I got a flat out no, which isn't that unusual. But this girl, I'm saying young girl, she's in her 20s, but mid-20s. So she was young when I first met her. But her mother is very arty. And I did a portrait of her mother years ago, which still is her favorite portrait apparently, because that's what the girl told me. It hangs prominently in the house. It was a beautiful portrait. Mind you, her mother is a gorgeous woman. Well, she's old now, but not old, but I did her when she was like in her 20s. And she wasn't in her 20s then. But she looked the same till she was in her 40s. That was amazing genes, I gotta tell you. Some people have genes that are... they don't look their age at all. And did it my way. I'm going to put some highlights in now. So I'm going to come over here. This is a beige. I don't like the feel of that one. That's better. Beige is a little... it's a little rougher than I wanted. And let's go. And the show took a hello and did it my way. Da 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 dee 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 da 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 da. And he just and no much more than this. I did it my way. If you're wondering what the song I'm singing is called My Way, which has nothing to do with me. It was written by a guy named Paul Anka for Frank Sinatra. And it actually isn't his music. He rifled the music from a French composer who had completely different lyrics to the song, but he's heard it and wrote new lyrics for it. Gave the guy the money eventually, though, after they outed him. But he wrote it for Frank Sinatra, but Elvis heard it first. So Elvis recorded it first. And the rest is history. I kind of always liked Elvis's version better. It was written for Frank Sinatra, but I didn't think his rendition was as good as Elvis's. Well, it wasn't written for Frank, but the words were written for Frank Sinatra. Now here, watch this now. I'm going over top of some hair that's already there. You see that? So what happens when you do that is it gives you another layer underneath, which is a good thing because then it gives it more three dimensions, more three-dimensional look. And also on the outside, now I've spray painted or airbrushed some white out there. So when I go outside of it, I want to give her a little bit of cream instead of white, because I'm contrasting against the white. So how do you contrast against white? Well, you use cream. And you go this way to thicken up some hair to make it look like it's like there's so much hair that it's just not even strands, it's just thick, right? Well, everybody knows hair is strands, but you know what I mean. And if you don't, send me a whisper and I'll explain it. Just a whisper to me. Anyway, Ghost, I am, you gotta see it? Okay, man. Da, 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 da. When you gonna let me get sober? Leave me alone, let me go home. Let me go home and start over. So I'm getting a little bit brighter down here. Like I said, I wanted a nice billowing look here to the hair. And I want some of this as well. So I lighten it again with more streaks. When you gonna let me get sober? See me alone, let me go home. Let me go home and start over. Rambling around this dirty old town, searching for nickels and dimes. Times are rough, I ain't got enough to buy me a bottle of wine. Oh, bottle of wine, fruit of the vine. When you gonna let me get sober? Leave me alone, let me go home. Let me go home and start over. Rambling around this dirty old town, searching for nickels and dimes. Times are rough, ain't got enough to buy me a bottle of wine. No, bottle of wine, fruit of wine. Gonna let me get sober. Leave me alone, let me go home. Let me go home and start over. Oh, damn you. You know, when I put that in there, I said to myself, Self, are you sure you want to do that? And I went, oh yeah. And now I'm saying to myself, see, I told you not to do it. Yeah, it's just another little thing I have to fix. Okay. Happens. got enough to buy me a bottle of wine. Ooh, bottle of wine. Fruit of the vine. And you make it sober. Leave me alone. Let me go home. Let me go home. It's over. Traveling around this dirty old town, searching for nickels and dimes. Ain't got enough. Oh, I know what I did there. Okay. Aha. Aha. The mystery is solved. Okay. I see, said the blind man to his deaf son who was listening to the radio. Working for medical dime. Times rough. Ain't got enough to buy me a bottle of wine. Ooh, bottle of wine. Fine, you're gonna let me get sober. Leave me alone. Now you go back in. Now with you bring it back towards the brunette tones with the browns. I thought I would get a better tone there than I did, but I'll have to bring the hair out somewhat. What I'll do is I'll thicken it up through here. There we go. There we go. Traveling around this dirty old town, searching for nickels and dimes. Times are rough. Ain't got enough to buy me a bottle of wine. Nope, a bottle of wine. Through the line. And you're gonna let me get sober. See me alone. Be alone. Let me go home. Let me go home so I can start over. Let me go home and start over. did it my way. For what is meant for what he The record show I took the road and did it my way. Dun, 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 The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. Too few to mention. Da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 dee dee, da 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 da, da 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 da. And no, not this. I did it my way. And did it my way. Da 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 in every my way, and oh no, not this. I did it my way. Did In every away much more I did it my way. Mercy dotes and dozy dotes and little anxieties, wouldn't you? Mercy dotes and little anxieties. Wouldn't you? Mercy dotes and dozy. Da 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 da. La da da da. Da 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 da. And oh, much more than that. My way. And yes, I've had a few. Too few to mention. Without exception. And now, da 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 da, and oh, much more than that. I did it my way, and was his. I took the blue and did it my way. Much more than that. I did my way, and was it da, 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 da. Okay, folks, what do you think? Time for paint, I think. Time for touch-up with paint and call it a day. Yes, you are a lovely girl. Oh, that's a bit brighter. It's a little bright. Okay. The record shows. I took the blows. Da, da, da. The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. The record shows. I'll bite. Where is my thing? Oh, there it is. Jeez. Sorry for the upside down, but it's the kind of only way that you can guarantee your stroke if you're working flat. I'm sure there's some people who can do it, but it's a pain in the butt. I'm writing you a letter all day long. I'm writing you a letter all day long. I'm writing you a letter. Brothers and sisters, all over this land. Talking about danger, I'm talking about love, I'm talking about the routine, brothers and sisters, oh, over this land. Between brothers and talk about lonely. Oh, for God's sake. Even all over this land, I'm talking about danger. Oh. Mm-hmm. All over this land, I'm talking about danger. I'm talking about warning. I'm talking about love. Brothers and sisters. All over this land. Do 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 do. All over this land, I'm talking about danger. I'm talking about warning. I'm talking about the brothers and the sisters. No. 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 That's that splayed brush technique I was talking about earlier. That, you know, when you're doing hair, you can splay the brush a little. So you get like a double stroke. Just let it go a little dry. Like that, see? See that? You get a double stroke. And that double stroke will give you realistic looking hair. Now I'm adding a little bit of brown in here, just to throw in the actual hair color, because you know I've got orange and purple and you can't see it, but it's there. Just adds to the color mix. And as long as I'm here, I have to take this one out too. That hurt, because that was a nice little spot, but it's not. Trouble is it's in the wrong spot. If I just moved it a little bit, it would have been fine, but no. Hindsight's 20/20, yeah. Unfortunately. It's the way it works. I gotta fix that, or it looks like the biggest split end that ever lived. Stroke's going the wrong way, that's the problem. There we go. Went too far. Oh well. Put a little bit of light hitting it. Problem solved. Yep. And so ends our beautiful silk dressed girl. Available to you the minute it's done. As hopefully a lovely yowza, a nice piece to add to anyone's collection. Of gaming characters. I know I like her, but since I drew her, and the ones before her, so as I said tomorrow night, it's a little bit something else. Now for something completely different. You're going to see me do a portrait. Yes, my bread and butter. The portraits. You're on my side. You're on my side. Now I want to get a little bit of lighter brown in there. So I'm going to mix some up, which is dangerous with this paint. Because, to be honest with you, it isn't really good paint. My good paint is not for this stuff. Doing this type of stuff. This is just highlighting. So it doesn't matter. The color is the color. If you want good paint, you gotta buy Liquitex or Golden or something like that to get the mixtures right. And the reason simply is you can't mix the paint. You just can't. At least I've never seen you can anyway. I've never met anybody who can do it, but I'm sure there may be somebody out there who's figured a way to do it. I never have. It's a gigantic mystery. How do they do it? Mind you, I've never seen anything I really like painted in crap paint either. You can always tell. I mean, once you get past, when somebody goes into like a third color, you can see you can just see the gray in it, you know. At least I can anyway. But for just highlighting, don't waste your money. Just go get some. Just get some like student acrylic paint or whatever the hell you want to get, and just use that. It's no big deal. If you're just using the color, that's the key. You're okay with two colors, but you get into a third color, you're cooked. Like a third mix on the color, you're cooked. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. And the reason's simple. It's not real color. Well, I mean, it is. You know, I should catch myself when I say stuff like that, because it is real color, but it isn't real pigment. That's the difference. So you can get the color out of the tube. That doesn't matter. But if you want to mix a third color from those colors, no. You run into real heavy-duty problems. And those problems are that it turns gray. And the reason it turns gray is you're not mixing real color. Or I mean real pigment. So pick your battles. It's better to buy good paint that you can mix. If you were just to buy the primes, just the primes, nothing else, and learn how to mix from the prime colors, all other colors. Not hard to do. I mean, you can look it up and figure out how to do it and all that neat stuff. And if you do that, you don't have to buy any other colors. None. And I mean that. None. You just don't. You will learn how to mix every single color. Now, there was a time when I could do that, but I haven't done it in many years. I know most of the colors I use because I use them all the time. You know, artists seem to gravitate to certain colors, right? But there was a time. But you don't need to buy every color. You can literally mix. You can mix every color from the primes: violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Magenta, I should say. Sorry. If you're going to do it, you got to have magenta to mix the color. But that's the primes, and if you do that, then you don't have a problem. You won't have a problem affording paint because you're mixing it. So buy lots and mix it up. Now, in the long run, you'll save yourself a ton of dough. But as you get older and lazier, you go, you know what? It's a 6-color mix to get that goddamn color. I'm just going to go buy it. And then that's what you do. I mean, why do I buy Payne's Gray? Why? I can mix up 2 colors and I got all I want. So why do I buy a tube of it? Why? Because I'm too damn lazy to go mix it up. That's why. Nothing more than that. Not rocket science, it's just laziness. But, oh my god, I got a blob of paint come off of it. Yes, under the lights, this is what you have to expect. With acrylic, it dries so quickly. So I'll make it work to my advantage and just brush it in. After I got the big hunk off. That is. And now I got way too much brown on there. So, what to do? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out my little bit of just a not even a squeeze, just a quarter fingernail of black, and I'm going to run it through the paint just before it dries and make a nice little contrast in there, and it's as good as new. That's all there is to it. That's all there is. Can't be dry yet. No. I swear some of this paint dries the second you put it on the paint. Well, I can't, you know, I can't blame the paint. It's the lights are really hot. To get the right light to do this. So the paint becomes very, very dry very, very fast. Well, I think she looks bloody good. Bloody good. Yes, bloody good. I watched Winston Churchill the other night. Oh, man. At the end of the movie, you end up talking like him. Best line in the movie. Churchill talking to the King of England. How can I trust a man who drinks whiskey for breakfast, a bottle of champagne at lunch, a bottle of champagne at dinner, and cognac and brandy for the rest of the evening? How do you do it, man? What does Churchill say? Practice, my lord. Practice. Now that is funny to me. Bloody right practice. This guy, I don't know how they drank like they did. I don't know. How? You know, he didn't die like of cirrhosis or anything. He lived to a pretty good age. You know, that was 1965 he died. 1965 or something. You know, that was during the war, so it was a good 20 years after the war. And he was a good age then. Lived a hell of a lot longer than Hitler did, I'll tell you that. Yeah, Hitler. Yes. Hitler. Thank God that mother's dead. Should have been shot in the cradle. Monster. Mind you, there's been more than him. Because Stalin was just as bad, maybe worse. Mao. Mao starved to death 30 million people. You can't say he was a real humanitarian. Pol Pot murdered 20 million people. Not 20, sorry, 2 million people. Everybody who was a teacher, an educator, a doctor, a lawyer, everything. Gone. But, you know, his feeling was as long as he took a picture of them, you know, left it on a wall somewhere in an archive, and he was doing his duty. And that's what happened. Millions of pictures of people massacred, dead, executed for what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Well, folks, she is done. Fini. Unless there's something I've missed, which may be possible. I may have missed something. But she is now completed. Hope she looks good to you. So ends the beauty with the silk dress on. Yeah, she's a cutie, I gotta admit. She is a cutie. But tomorrow will be a portrait. But I say good night to you. Have a lovely evening. Have a good tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and I'll see you at 7 o'clock, and we will start a new picture. That's a promise. Good night.